Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc.
Today's topic is From Dread to Dollars. Question for the audience. How can you consistently book high-value client meetings without wasting time on unanswered calls or getting stuck with gatekeepers? That's what our guest is going to be talking about today. Our guest today is Blaise from MacClayne and Company. Blaise is a founder and he is a cold calling specialist with nearly 2 decades of experience in high-level appointment setting. In 2000, he took the lead from corporate cold caller to business owner and never looked back. Blaise has successfully secured meetings for industries ranging from entertainment to telecom, proving his expertise in the toughest part of sales, getting past the gatekeeper and speaking directly with the decision makers. With an average of 30,000 calls and 7,000 conversations each year, he's mastered making that first connection count. Beyond business, Blaise is an avid walker, covering 7 kilometers a day and competing with Fitbit users worldwide. He's not settling when he's not settling appointments or racking up steps, he enjoys unwinding with a good movie. Blaise, welcome and good to have you here. Do you have a favorite quote or saying you want to share with us, sir?
My favorite quote is, be persistent, never give up. That's the hallmark of why I've been doing this so long. I never give up. I make sure I follow up with everyone consistently. About 80% of people out there don't follow up well, and they leave a lot of money on the table. So I go with the mindset that I follow up. One time with a client's permission last year, over 6 months, I called him 26 times and I got a 5-month client out of that. I said to myself, what if I didn't call the 26th time? This was his permission, of course. So it takes, and that's how I approach the cold calling. It's a numbers game. If you do this many calls, results will happen. My longest contract with a client was 16 years. I worked with Rogers Corporate for 36 hours a month for 10 years. And I'm working with another local telecom for almost 5. It's because I get out there and it's less work for the sales rep and they get qualified leads and appointments.
So why do people feel like they're the wallflower? Because no one dives into that cold water willingly, typically. Of course, you're a really strong extrovert. You just like adventures. You jump out of an aircraft or bungee cord jumping and stuff like that. Why do people dread that? Because it isn't that scary, is it?
It's really the fear of rejection. The more I get rejection, the more I get closer to that appointment. Some days, like the other day, I got 3 out of 4 conversations in 3 hours because I work in 3. The other day, I got 1 out of 6. The other day, I get 4 out of 7. What you find when you do consistent amount of calls, they all average out and you get the results. Clients want results, not excuses. And it all starts with writing a good script, a good list, and a good attitude. I've done this now for almost 3 decades and 25 on my own. And I never looked back.
Having a good script is part of the technique of doing the calls. What are the other common mistakes people make?
Well, they don't say exactly what they're going to say. because there's three things about a script. Who are you? Why are you calling? And what's in it for me? And you have to be clear. A lot of people these days, and it's not always a bad thing, speak too fast. So one of my mentors taught me, if you speak too fast, they think what they heard, but they didn't hear it. But if you speak at a slower pace, they can actually make a better decision. So who are you? Why are you calling? And what's in it for me? It has to be clear, the script and what you're trying to offer them. And that's really what it is, because so many people, I hear this in the last 25 years being in business. I hired him. It didn't work out. In BC, it's anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000 to hire a rep, only to not do the phone calls that necessary.
Is there a generational change in the cold call?
I can't say for sure that there might be. In November 2023, I call it my side hustle. I do cold calling coaching for 2 hours. And I teach everyone how to do the phone call, because that's still quite important. With digital media, it has its place, but you still have to know how to talk to someone. You have to be able to sell yourself. You have to be able to, and it comes natural for me. But I could teach when I do 2-hour cold calling coaching over a week, I tell people, you don't have to be like me. I can teach you some techniques on getting on the phone and getting those calls.
So do you find that cold calls implies phone? You also do this online?
Oh, no, I mostly use a normal telephone.
But do you ever do any cold calling online, as in with video, like either Zoom or Teams or any other platform?
No, mostly, but I do sometimes automated calling depending on the client, but mostly I just manually press the buttons. Clients don't need fancy stuff. They just want results. That's what working with Rogers and another company in Surrey for 16 years. It's really important. One of the things I remember working with this company for 16 years, they said, we'll let you go once we found a salesperson. I was there for 16 years and they went through probably 20, 30 salespeople. And so what happens at the end, the owners ended up having to do the calls because somebody's got to go out and sell the product. And a lot of people are adverse to doing that. And there are people that can do the calls, but they just won't do it.
How do you make the first 10 seconds count?
Hi. One of the things I learned a new technique about 3 years ago, be that much more clear. I used to say, hi, I'm wondering if you can help me. But I'd say, hi, it's Blaise calling for Bernie from Insight Creative here in Ottawa. Could you put me through to John Anderson, please? And now that I do that, it's much easier. I introduce myself because if you don't have a name on the list, it's a little bit harder. And then I have less blockages now. For the last 3-4 years, I get right to it. Hi, Blaise calling from Wayne Pratt from Kingston, Ontario. Could you put me through to Bernie, the president of Creatives, please? It's amazing. It's almost like a magic word. I have so much more cooperation. And even though I've done this for years, I'm always learning something new.
So what's the most common objection you hear, pushback that you get from people?
I'm happy with what I have. I don't want to change. And so what I do is now is I ask them, what, if you don't mind me asking, what's your advertising executive doing to ensure you're getting maximum benefits? And then get them thinking. So now my scripts are much more strategic. So yeah, makes.
You use linguistics to help the conversation flow better? NLP, okay.
I've heard of it, but I don't know a lot about it. Can you tell me what that is in a nutshell?
It's phrasing in such a way that it leads the person in the right direction, typically. You can help me out if you want to add more to the NLP component.
It was mostly the person who made it famous was Tony Robbins. And it's that words affect the mind and how you think more than you realize. So you say power words and they respond almost automatically before they even think about it. As in mind programming. It can be abused, but it is an interesting tool.
I do that because it's gotten much better. I think of every word. When I do a script with a client, I say, okay, if you're an insurance agent, why would they want to go with you? Where they can go with someone else. And so then we get the why, and then we get the words in such a way. I've heard of neuro-linguistic programming, and I probably use it. I only say probably because I've heard of the word, but it's gotten better anyways.
40 years ago, business owners tended to have secretaries. And now, voicemail is the new standard. Do you have a way to get through to use voicemail so the voicemail isn't the gatekeeper, or do you just keep calling until you get a real live person? Or how do you deal with voicemail and answer machines?
Okay, so I don't leave messages because I find it's a waste of time. So I call someone until I get a hold of them. If I do 300 test calls, which I usually do to see if it's going to work in the long term, I'll get there'll be what you call pickups, but probably in 3 hours get a hold of, I call it conversations, at least 6 to 8 folks in 3 hours. These are people that can make the decision or influence there. Yeah, that I just keep calling. I mean, I've done this so long, like I do anywhere from 20 to 25 calls an hour, depending on what we're talking about. Sometimes it could be less. Yeah.
In the age of people getting lots of calls, both Wayne and I here in Ontario, we receive abundance of calls, and it's usually an automated voice, someone from another country who I can't understand, or literally they're speaking another language. I've had that happen. Or it's hi, we're the CRA. We're coming here to send you to jail if you don't dance for us. It's basically scammers or just nuisance calls. As part of your protocol, do you have your phone number identifiable? If you're not leaving messages, how do you know if they're going to pick up on the second time? Because I've had people, they've called me and leave any message. I go up on the phone and block their number because I'm just tired of getting spammy. Unfortunately, the rest of the universe is jamming up my phone line and I don't appreciate it. How do you get past that? Because they want to talk to you because you're going to try to reach me for something I need.
One of the things, I stay within North America. So and I could call anywhere in North America. And I'm very pleasant. I've gotten so good at doing it that I can build trust and rapport almost immediately. And I don't get as much hang-ups as most people would think. I just get right to the point. I don't say, how are you? How's the weather? I say, hi, it's Blaise calling from Wayne from Kingston, with the best record in Kingston, specializing in getting the word out for Greater Ontario. If you don't mind me asking, what are you doing to get the word out? And are you happy with your provider? Something like that. So I just get right to the point. And then people don't have as much apprehension.
When a customer hires you, how much work do you go into figuring out what the customer does?
I spend at least an hour and a half. That's including writing a script and figuring out what their goals are and what they want to get, and telling them that there's no guarantee how many results. I don't give people guarantees. The only guarantee I do is the calls. We do 300 test calls over 12 hours. And the preparation goes into that. And that's finding out what makes them different. And then I'll make the calls, give a daily report, and then we'll see if it works. They don't have to spend a lot of money to find out. If they want to do their own calls or just want to be better at it, I can help them for 2 hours. And it's a very nominal fee.
You make a call and someone says, are they hemming and hawing? How do you know that they're either interested, maybe the timing's off, maybe the budget isn't there, or it's no, I don't want that. Thanks, but no thanks.
I just know when to push and when to back off. It's unconscious. Maybe it's NLP. A lot of people are trained to say no. You're trained to say no when you grow up. And then, so I get through those no's and say, gee, not only is he providing you really good service, so one good thing is to have a nice alternative. This is what I call my Hail Mary close. If I still have a chance, I go, hey, what I'd like to do is call for Wayne to introduce himself. So in the future, when you're ready to take another look, you'll have a dedicated advertising owner with your best interest in mind. I call it the Hail Mary close, like football. And I get at least a couple extra a month. That's more than I would have gotten if I hadn't used that close. I got well trained at one of my large clients and further enhanced my cold calling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you made a phone call and the nod's been given, do you follow up with another phone call? Do you follow up with an email? What's the next step after you had a success? Either there's interest, they want to see a bit more. If you're offering something, let's say a car, do a test drive, maybe sit in it. If it's an old car, then you'll have that certain smell to it, but that involves a couple more steps. How do you progress them along from the call?
Is this if I'm doing my own prospecting, or is this after
Yeah.
I've had a successful?
A successful call. In other words, someone says, "Hey, I want to hire you, Blaise. I want you to do a thousand phone calls out there. Here's my market. Here's my profile. You've reached out to me to sell your service, and the next step is."
The next step is to, like, if it works, that's what I base it on, the 4-day trial. I would want to determine if I can help them. I got to have an intuitive sense if it's going to work, right? And what I usually ask my clients to do is to go with the easiest markets to start rather than the hardest, because I'd rather go with the probability of success. So we would do a 4-day trial. I do 300 test calls, and then we review it over 12 hours to see if it worked in the long term. The nice thing is they don't have to spend thousands of dollars to find out at a reasonable cost. And it's affordable. And same with my cold calling coaching, it's extremely affordable.
When someone is rude, how do you find you're able to brush that off?
Don't take it personally. Just another call. I just say, okay, that's not my stuff. He might have had an argument with his wife before he went to work. There's so many different reasons. And over the last 25, 30 years, I just brush past it. Don't get as many rude people now as I keep doing this. Not too many are rude.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating to say, because I have fun at it, and it's getting more fun as the years go by. The cold calling coaching I'm doing, I didn't know how much I knew until I started talking about what I knew. And then now I've trained approximately 40, 45 people since November 2023. And what I'm finding is some people don't always ask for the order. They get to this point, now you got to ask them if they're working with me and say, hey, Wayne or Bernie, if we were to work together, what would that look like? And then you just ease people in.
I'm going to call you Zen, Blaise Zen MacClayne. It's true. Brushing it off and moving on, right? They're not your family. They're not coming home to eat dinner with you.
I don't even see their face because I'm on the phone. I accept when I meet a client. One of the things, what's really helped me is a really good book called The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. And that really helped. That actually helped start my cold calling coaching, because I thought I shouldn't just offer one thing. So if you sell the burger, why not the fries? If you spend $1,000 on a suit and I say, hey, what's $200 to take your wife out for you have a nice watch? It's called contrast selling. So you've already spent $1,000. What's another $200 to even feel more better? Sounded like the way I get the cold calling call. They don't want the full package offer.
When I started my career was with life insurance, and they handed me something called the phone book. If you're under 30, you may not even know what that looked like. But how do you build a good call list so that you don't random dial? How do you build a list?
I refer my clients to Data Axle. He's a local, actually their head office in Toronto. If you don't have a good list, the cold calling will fail. And the age of a list makes a difference sometimes. So I make sure that they get a good list. Now, some clients go on the cheat and then we don't get results. I'm adamant on making sure they pay for the list. It would take me too much of my resources to go find it. But I refer them to, I call him a list broker in Vancouver. And he can help my Canadian American clients. Yeah. And when I start out with clients, all I need is about 400 companies to start.
When you're building out a list like that, do you run into any privacy concerns? If you send out an email, a cold email, and people going, why am I receiving this? They can hit the unsubscribe button, but they can also get a little ornery about why I'm on the list. Do you ever run into that as an issue?
Really? Because they're not my attitude. If you have a business, some say, how did you find my business? You're in business, right? These are companies that are public anyway. It's not too much of an issue at all. And these are companies that the company is called Data Axle. They've done good research on the companies. I like that company because it gives me a better chance of good results.
Do you find that you call the company you're working with or a different division of the company so you don't get cut out by mergers or layoffs? So you always have people that want to work with you?
So if there's a merger or anything, you're asking how it might affect me?
Yeah.
It hasn't really affected me too much. I worked with Rogers for 10 years and they had a lot of changes in management and I survived it. because especially with big companies, they go by the numbers. What are you bringing in? How much you have to bring in the numbers. I survived it because I'm consistent. And that's what clients want, is consistent numbers. And that's why I was able to work with Rogers 10 years and a business machine company for 16. And I'm working with another telecom. I've been with them 5 years, 36 hours a month. And as long as the owner sees consistency, they're happy. They just want you making them money. Hopefully they'll make 3 times the amount. And so if they're paying 10,000, hopefully they're making 200,000. The thing about cold calling, it pays over time in terms of if you get a client 3 a day, then not everyone's going to go through, but they're going to get consistent amount that there's numbers coming in. And one of my biggest clients appreciates that. So it's just one phone call. Are we up for next month? Yep. Just yes. Send the bill in. That's what they want, consistency. They want results. And if I do a 4-day trial that doesn't work out, I'll be straightforward and say, hey, look, we did, we could. And once in a while, it does happen. Sometimes the script isn't right, but then I'd figure that out from the beginning so that there's minimal risk for the client.
For the people that fear that the phone weighs 400 pounds, what's one piece of advice you can give them to get them to that first dial?
Breathe. There's a Buddhist thing that I learned from my medical doctor, previous one, is you breathe in 4, hold your breath for a second and breathe out 8 like you're whistling, and do that 5 times. Because what it does is get you in the zone. So if you're feeling anxious, people will sense it. So you breathe in 4, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and it actually lowers your blood pressure. I've seen it happen when I go to the doctor. Your blood pressure starts dropping 30, 40 points because you're relaxing. That's what people are like with cold calling. Sometimes when they haven't done, oh my God, I don't know if I like that. I still do that for myself because sometimes you could be a little off, even if you've done it for so long. And so once in a while, you just get yourself in the zone. And I'm really hyper-focused when I do the calls for the clients because it's like a football game. I go in and I throw the football and see where the receiver is and find an opening that I can get a yes. I do it so subconsciously to get the result. It's so automatic.
What should a person budget and what should they expect if they hire someone to do cold calling? What kind of figures should they look for to spend? And then at the same time, for every dollar spent making that happen, what type of ROI should they be seeing coming back to them?
That's an interesting question. I'm finding that not everybody can close. And that's what I'm asking people now. How do you close? What's the process? In the last year, got client 12 appointments that they got overwhelmed and they didn't know. And so when I listened, I said, did you follow up? No, this is why you hired me. Right. But that inspired me to get into cold calling coaching too, because I thought, I got to teach these people. I had a client in the summer that not only did I help him, but I helped improve his closing. So it's variable, but it really has to do they close. I put it out there. I've done half the work for them. Now it's up to them to follow up properly. And not everyone does. The contracts that I've worked with, they know how to close. Not everybody has that mindset. That's a good question, but I can't say exactly because everybody closes differently.
Do you work with CRMs?
I have on occasion. I mostly work over 95% on Excel because I find it's easy. I had a client I worked with here at WRN. I called for WRN and I called for their warm markets. They've hired me twice. They're going to hire me again. I've gotten a lot out of that. WRN, by the way. That's a good question again about ROI. It really truly comes down to how can you close them? How do you follow up? And I ask every client, how do you follow up? And if it didn't work, then sometimes it doesn't once in a while, right?
So does that integrate with their overall marketing strategy? We've talked to other people, the chief revenue officer, he goes, marketing and sales, they're different, but they're in tandem. One markets to get the message out than the sales, but he says it's just more than just sales. It's also, okay, now the customer has said yes. Have you shipped? Right? Or have you any TLC behind that? So is cold calling just an element of that whole cycle? Or do you also do the cold calling and then later follow-up calls?
No, because my job is to mainly do the introduction and it's up to them. What I tell my clients, and even if I got them 10 appointments, I say, that's just the first step. And it might take 3 cycles of 12 hours till you see your first sale. And that that I tell them to be realistic because I'm building the funnel when it comes to the cold calling. I'm building it and finding stuff like that. Yeah. So it's all works in tandem, but one of the things that people don't always realize, you have to keep marketing. You got to keep going. I like going out there and finding that lead and making it work for my client and for myself too. It takes persistence. Have you guys heard of the spaghetti effect?
No.
Okay. So what the spaghetti effect is, you've got to keep going. You've got to market yourself everywhere. So if you throw enough spaghetti on the wall, something will stick. And that's the philosophy I live. I market everywhere, every place, everywhere that I could be known. That's called the spaghetti effect.
So
Throw enough spaghetti, something's going to stick.
I'm guessing that there are keys to a successful call. Are there 3 keys? How do I get a course to learn more about it?
Okay. My first package is a 4-day trial, and that's just under $1,200. That's 300 calls. You would get a script written, and we would work together. I go on a team approach. It's not, here's a script. Good luck, Blaise. I did that beginning way back, 20, that didn't work. So I thought, no, I got to get the client to produce, because there's some nuances I might not know about your business. The second step, if you don't want that, or if you don't prefer that, you want to learn how to upgrade your skills. I do cold calling coaching for 2 hours. I do 1 hour, 1 week, and I only charge $400 plus HST. So it's about $429. And I teach you the best practices. First, I find out what you might be struggling with. Rather than just telling you, let's find out what you're up against. How can you help if you don't know what the problem is? I'm finding in the last 45 or so coaching sessions that some people just need motivation. Sometimes I coached this one person and she started selling and she knew she could do it. Sometimes it ends up being like a life coach motivation. Like I just did that recently. Someone says, wow, I feel so good. It might be like, why don't you go to your local Rotary Club? That's your first step. It's not that people want to be told what to do. Sometimes we all get into a bit of life can be very difficult. It's happened on a few occasions where I just end up motivating them and giving them the skills with it. What you would get on the 2 hour is that I would teach you the best practices I know that will get you that meeting set up in the most easier way and stuff. In fact, I'm going to be training a sales team tomorrow. It's just going to be my 3rd in a row this year. I train up to 5 because it gets, I wouldn't say harder. I've done 9 once. And I had to actually hire a trainer how to talk continuously for 2 hours. It's easier one-on-one. Now I'm going to be training 5 people tomorrow and next week in Vancouver. Especially young people, they still need to know how to talk on the phone. It's not just texting, because texting doesn't get the expression that you want to say. Sometimes I'll call my bookkeeper. Oh, can you just clarify what you meant on that? And then once you talk about it, it gets clear. So I give you the best practices that I've learned over 30 years. So that you can do that even better, even if you're a seasoned sales rep.
You ever find that you record your calls just for quality assurance? Ever?
No, I don't know. I think it would throw my clients to, some clients have suggested, I may have done it a few times, but what I do is absolute focus. That's why I work for myself. When a boss used to look at me, I realize now I condensed it from 8 hours to 6 hours. So I work like 9 to 12, 1 to 3, or 1 to 4. It's all about focus. And any distractions are not good for me. I'm really focused on that 3 hours. I get up, go have a coffee. I probably drink about 6 cups of tea a day. But that's what I do.
So is there a more ideal industry that could use cold calling to support, or is it agnostic? It fits all industries?
Industries. You know, I've called just about every place, and I can't even remember from 25. I've done business machines, coaching, and there's so many coaches out there. I always ask the coaches, what makes you different? Why? There are thousands out there. What, and that's what, when I go in a cold calling set, I want to make sure that they stand out, not just another or a coach or insurance. I could sit down with both of you and create something. If you don't mind me asking, are you spending more than you'd like? And are you really getting the return on your investment? Are you getting out to the people that you're hoping for? I'm always asking when if you ever watch Columbo, he always asks questions. He always asks questions. And he listened.
If a listener's business is a little flatter than they'd like, and they think calling could be a good resource, how would they get a hold of you?
Easy to get a hold of. I'm in Vancouver. And my number is area code 604-836-9852. Or they can reach me with my last name, MacClayne at shaw.ca. So that's MacClayne at shaw.ca. And also, if they want to look up my website, it's www.coldcallingguru with 2Gs.com. That's www.coldcallingguru.com. And one last thing one of the things I want to say too, I actually like what I do, and a lot of people don't. That's why I'm in business. When I work with large companies, they would use me as a resource. If they didn't meet their numbers, hey, let me help you. So you get a better start than just sending out emails. But it's also time and persistence. You have to be persistent. Never give up. You can't give up. I can remember one time it took 7 years. Now, this is only once that I got this client. The one I got 26 times, 5 months. It's just, I follow up. I look at every lead. Am I missing something? And then keep going.
I want to say thank you to Blaise MacClayne, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you need the resource, the human touch, the calling man, Blaise is your man, because he can reach out and he'll work with you to make that marketing push happen, bring you the clients you're seeking.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motive8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.